Shannon looked at her reflection in the mirror before leaving. For a 25-year-old woman, she looked good and liked what she saw. She was getting ready for a formal gala dinner, wearing a designer evening gown and adorned with jewelry. Her hair was styled, and a few red curls framed her pretty face and bright green eyes. She put on high heels and, as always, looked at her butt. It didn't seem any bigger, but that always bothered her. Her breasts looked bigger thanks to her push-up bra. She was ready. This was everything she wanted. 1,000 miles away, Shannon's husband, Scott, looked in another mirror and saw failure. Tired, out of shape, and without a career, he felt like a complete loser. He had dreams that he shared with Shannon, to become a musician, but the chances of that happening were slim. He felt broken, and caring for their child, Chloe, helped him, but completely exhausted him. His hobbies and sports were long-forgotten memories. He let his belly stick out, and it looked normal until he relaxed, and then he felt a small belly start to appear. Damn, he had to do something about it. Scott remembered that it hadn't always been this way, recalling their favorite song from when they first started dating. Dirty Old Town by Evan McCole and Shane McGowan of the Pogues. I met my love by the gasworks wall, dreamed by the old canal, kissed my girl by the factory wall. There was no gasworks in his old town, but there were huge tanks called boilers because they looked like giant steam engines. The song perfectly captured their shared desire to escape the small coal town. Scott's escape plan was based on his love of music, while Shannon wanted to pursue a career in business. Springsteen described their feelings so well. "Oh, baby, this town drank your soul. It's a deadly trap. It's suicide. We gotta get out of here while we're young, 'cause drifters like us, baby, we were born to run." Scott's other passion was nature and outdoor recreation. Thanks in large part to a couple of wonderful teachers who organized an outdoor club where kids from coal towns could go rock climbing, mountain biking, canoeing, and sailing. This introduced them to the splendor of nature and allowed them to learn more about the wonderful places they could dream of. After 6th grade, Scott and Shannon spent a fantastic long summer in Europe, living in their uncle's old beat-up van. Seeing the Alps was a dream come true. They traveled through Germany, France, and Italy, and Scott wrote probably 100 songs that sounded great, but were only heard by him and Shannon. They got temporary jobs at campgrounds, and Scott took up rock climbing, quickly realizing that he would never be great, but good enough to enjoy a season of climbing with people from different countries. The other guys were amazing. Their combination of athleticism and courage was striking. Some of them never made a mistake, while others tried too hard, perhaps even beyond their abilities. Scott played cover songs on his guitar in bars to earn some money and extend his trip to the Dolomites and Croatia. His dream was to see the Himalayas and climb the rocks in Yosemite. But he needed money he didn't have. They weren't sure how exactly. Well, of course they knew how plumbing and biology worked, but Shannon was pregnant, and they weren't sure how the protection had worked. They ignored their friend's advice and got married, and 9 months later, little Chloe joined them. They moved to London, where Scott supported Shannon, who graduated with honors in marketing and public relations, while he stayed home to take care of Chloe. It was a sensible decision, as the course was a more reliable choice than a career as a budding musician. It was hard for Scott. He had never liked London, perhaps because for a small-town boy longing for open spaces, the city was too strange and noisy. The cramped and absurdly expensive apartment was awful, but his new friends, concerts, and the music scene were amazing. Scott got a part-time job at a bar to help pay the huge rent. Shannon was offered a job right after college, and her career took off quickly. 3 years later, Shannon was offered a new position. She was clearly excited when she called Scott and asked if he could watch Chloe and come to a fancy restaurant to discuss the details. The request seemed strange to him, but he convinced his neighbor to watch Chloe for a couple of hours. Scott arrived at the restaurant and saw Shannon engaged in conversation with a ridiculously handsome man whose accent was annoyingly, well, French. She introduced him. Scott didn't understand his title, but he was a representative of a European royal family. He remembered the name Claude. Claude greeted Scott warmly, saying how brilliant his wife was and how many ideas she had already suggested for his charity, and that he was very happy to be working with her. This was news to Scott. It seemed that Shannon had just become his public relations director. It turned out that the offer was to head a small public relations and advertising team for charity and promotional events for a year. If all went well, Shannon would be offered a management position at her parent company, so it was essentially a double promotion. Then came the bombshell. The position was in Monaco and involved frequent travel. It was her big break, and once it appeared on her resume, doors would open for her. Scott regretted that Claude wasn't some old fart when he realized that Shannon would be working exclusively for him, but at least he invited him over and gave him a warm welcome. On the way home, they began to discuss possible options. They could rent out their apartment in London and move to Monaco, but that would be too much of a shock for Chloe, and Shannon would be traveling a lot and not staying in one place for long. Scott didn't want to stay in London. He didn't like it there, and taking care of Chloe on his own would be even harder. The best option seemed to be to return with Chloe to their hometown for the duration of the contract. They could save money on the huge London rent and get help from their family. Leaving Chloe for so long at such a young age was not an easy decision, and Shannon was concerned that Scott would not find enough support. They knew that their mothers would be happy to take on the responsibilities of grandmothers and easily switch into organizing mode. Shannon could visit every weekend, and there were options for exciting trips to Monaco and other places. Money didn't seem to be an issue, as Claude covered all the expenses, although the schedule was sometimes challenging. Scott was nervous about returning home, to a place he had wanted to leave for so long. It had been almost 7 years since he had last lived there. Everything seemed different. Everything he had hated as a child, the cramped rooms, the nosy neighbors, the familiarity. Now it all seemed cozy. It was his hometown. He knew it like the back of his hand. He knew the people, went to school with them or with their brothers and sisters. He knew every street, every nook and cranny, and felt a connection to the place, knowing that several generations of his family had contributed to its development. It was the only place he felt at home, and where he could always escape to the coast and the mountains. It all started well, daily video calls and coming home every 2 weeks. Shannon was in her element, high status and big money, but she seemed to have everything under control. Scott was disappointed that he couldn't continue his career, but it was simply unrealistic. Suddenly, Shannon became semi-famous, her photos often appearing in newspapers and magazines, usually in the background while Claude was doing charity work. Scott was proud and happy for her. She deserved every bit of success. She came back every 2 weeks, and they did everything they could to make up for lost time. The sex was wild and passionate, followed by slow moments of mutual admiration and closeness. Trips to see Shannon became increasingly difficult to arrange and never happened. They missed a few phone calls, and there was one strange weekend when Shannon couldn't make it back. Over time, the charity program became more demanding, and she came home less and less. Scott saw her more often in magazines and on television, where she was often surrounded by an entourage, while Claude was the center of attention. They discussed it endlessly, and Scott accepted that she couldn't give up her dream, but it was much more difficult than either of them had anticipated. Shannon emphasized how much she missed Scott. He explained how much he and Chloe missed her and asked her to take a longer break, since it had already been 6 months. "I'm sorry I can't come this weekend. We have a big celebration." Scott's disappointment finally boiled over. "Are you ever coming back? Do you realize that this is the 2nd time in a row that Chloe won't see you for 6 weeks, and that's only if you deign to come next time? Don't be like that. It's important. It's my career." Yes, I understand that it's important to you, Shannon. But you do realize that last time you were so exhausted that we didn't even make love, and we hadn't been intimate for 2 months. So that's what this is about? You want to sleep with someone else? Well, go to hell, it's your money you're spending. Scott was speechless, unable to utter a word. I'm sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to say that. I believe that's what you meant, Shannon. Try to think about Chloe and maybe even about me, not just yourself. If we didn't need the money, would you have come home? But we need the money, so that's not an option. And I love my job. I'm good at it. It must be nice to have something you're passionate about. I didn't plan on being a single dad. Scott ended the conversation. Shannon did come home for 2 days, and then she went back to her big gala night. Scott tried to express his concern that she was focused on work and how that was affecting Chloe. The response was not what he had hoped for. Shannon hired her best friend from school, Christine, as a babysitter to help with Chloe. Shannon was worried about Scott, but she was consumed by work and very stressed. It was hard, and she needed to focus. Scott was so reliable. She knew he and Chloe would be fine. Their mothers were nearby to help, and Christine as a babysitter would provide extra support. An added bonus was that Christine would report any problems. The following weekend, Scott and Shannon looked at themselves in the mirror, 1,000 miles apart, and experienced almost opposite feelings. Contact improved for a while, but then returned to its previous level. To be fair, Christine was a godsend. The mothers helped, but she took most of the load off Scott and freed up his time. Christine didn't keep Shannon waiting long before telling her that Chloe missed her and that she needed to visit her daughter more often. She confirmed that Scott was a wonderful father and that he and Chloe had an amazing bond. Shannon felt a pang of regret at those words. He's not looking for someone else, is he, Christine? We feel a little neglected. No, but he feels abandoned, Shannon. What's going on with you? This situation is unfair to both of them. Shannon was glad that Christine cared about Scott. She worried that he might go off the rails while she was away. Not that he was that kind of person, but it didn't hurt to be cautious. She hadn't expected Christine to judge her so harshly for not visiting Chloe. Christine was almost as grumpy as her mother. Christine hadn't always chosen her men well, including her abusive ex-husband. One night, he showed up at Scott's door, yelling that he knew Christine was there with him. Christine was in a terrible state and begged Scott not to open the door. Fortunately, Shannon's mother, Maureen, was visiting at the time. Let her come out, or there'll be trouble. Scott was in a bad mood, and the fact that Chloe was asleep upstairs awakened his protective instincts. He opened the door, and the clearly drunk ex-husband stepped forward, but Scott pushed him back. Or what? What are you going to do? The ex took another step back, confused by Scott's question. Yeah, I thought so. Bullies like you only pick on the weak. Now get out of here before I throw you out. The ex started swearing, knowing that Christine was inside. At that moment, Shannon's mother, Maureen, appeared at the door. Yes, she's inside, but she doesn't want to see you anymore. The sight of Maureen shattered his illusion that Scott and Christine were close. Despite this, common sense did not prevail, and in a rage, he swung at Scott but missed. Scott barely touched him in response, and he fell to the ground. It wasn't quite like Allie, but it was still a victory, and after a couple of beers, it would have sounded like 12 rounds against Mike Tyson. The ex tried to get up, and Maureen shouted at him, I called the police. There's a child in the house, and you're embarrassing men. He tried to escape into the night, but didn't make it to the end of the street before the police picked him up. Christine was in shock, and it took Scott and Maureen a long time to calm her down, give her some pills, and put her to bed. Scott, could you keep an eye on her? She was always so sweet growing up with Shannon. It's a shame she can't find someone who will take care of her the way she deserves. I'll call tomorrow. Hopefully she'll be feeling better by then. Of course, I owe her for taking care of Chloe. Not all men are like him. She deserves much better. Scott stayed up all night with Christine. She seemed restless but didn't wake up until breakfast. "Thanks for last night, I owe you one." "Don't be silly, I just watched your ex fall. It was pretty funny and anyone would have done the same." "You didn't know what was going to happen when you walked up to the door. I seem to attract losers. What's wrong with me? Why can't I find a nice guy like you?" "Listen, Christine, I don't know what he did to your self-esteem and confidence, but you're an attractive woman, smart and caring. I would marry you in a heartbeat if I weren't married, and there are plenty of others who would do the same." Christine ran out of the room in tears, leaving Scott confused. He had tried so hard to say the right thing, but ended up upsetting her even more. He called Maureen and asked her to come over before he did something even more stupid. Maureen talked to Christine for a long time, and then Scott asked how she was and apologized if he had upset her. Yes, she was better. She wasn't used to men being nice to her, especially her hero. "Hero, no. Damn it, that's not what I meant. You know I wouldn't do that." "Relax, Scott. I know you wouldn't do that, and she knows it too, but be careful. I'm not sure she realizes it yet, but she's in love with you. It's not just because of last night, it's because of how you treat Chloe and support Shannon." "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'll act professional and keep my distance." "Maybe that's for the best. She's confused. I'll talk to her too." Christine timidly handed Scott a celebrity magazine and told him to look inside. There was a short article about a gala evening with photos, one of which showed Shannon holding Claude's hand and kissing him. Damn. The kiss was captured in the background of another photo. Scott immediately tried to call Shannon, but she didn't answer. He got another number through her company, and someone from her entourage answered. "This is Shannon Williams' husband. I need to talk to her urgently." "Unfortunately, Miss Williams is busy right now." "Miss... what the hell?" Scott hung up in a rage and sent a text message to Shannon's personal number. "Please have Miss Williams contact Mr. Williams immediately." Scott got a call back. "Hold on, Miss Williams." He hung up. They called again. "This is Miss Williams' personal assistant. Please hold, Miss Williams." "What's your name?" "Sorry." "What's your name?" "Stephanie. Stephanie Rochefort." "Tell your boss, Stephanie, that I'm not a business partner, and if she wants to talk to her husband, she should call him on his personal phone or call me herself." "You're not going to hold the line?" "Yes, Stephanie, I'm not." Scott hung up, and 10 minutes later the phone rang again. It was Shannon. "I'm flattered to finally be talking to the boss instead of one of your subordinates." "Don't be like that, Scott. We're crazy busy right now." "Yeah, you have time for everything except me." "You know what, Miss Williams, never mind." Scott ended the call and ignored the next one. Finally, he read her message. "Is everything okay? Is Chloe all right?" "Yes, Chloe is fine, but everything is far from okay. You should read a lifestyle magazine to understand why I needed to talk to you." His phone rang, but Scott ignored it and the 5 calls that followed. Then he received a message from her. "It didn't mean anything. It was just a quick kiss. Good night, just a kiss. It looks much worse in the photo. We have a professional relationship. Please reply so I can explain." Scott wasn't surprised when Maureen walked in. "Shannon is upset and you're not answering your phone." "As if she's answering hers, huh? You better look at the magazine on the table before you say anything else." Maureen stared at the photo for a long time. "These things can look worse than they really are." "What exactly, the kiss or the fact that they're holding hands? Actually, the second photo bothers me more. They're not kissing, but the look in her eyes, I know that look and it kills me. Be honest, Maureen, is she cheating on me?" "God, no, she wouldn't. I'll go to her tomorrow and find out what's going on." "Don't do anything rash, Scott. I'm sure everything will be fine." "Me too, and that's the problem." Maureen caught up with her daughter in Monaco and waited for her in the lobby of a luxurious apartment building, somewhat surprised at how Shannon entered the building looking like a model off the catwalk, then stopped abruptly when she saw Maureen. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to visit you." Aren't you going to say hello and invite me upstairs? Shannon nervously hugged her mother. Well, yes, of course, I'm glad to see you. Maureen looked around the apartment. You have everything you need? Lots of clothes, jewelry, shoes, handbags. Everything looks very expensive. This apartment must cost a fortune. Yes, everything is fine. We get a lot of gifts. People are trying to sign contracts with us and get our approval, and the apartment comes with the job. Then Maureen noticed razors and men's toiletries. Shannon saw her mother's gaze and froze in horror. Maureen walked over to the closets and opened them, discovering a long rack with men's suits and other clothes. What's going on here, Shannon? Shannon sighed to herself. These are Claude's things. This is his apartment. He left some things here. Moran looked at her daughter, noticed the lie, and, as always, asked directly, Are you living with him? No, he sometimes stays overnight. My God, you're having an affair. No, it's not an affair. It has nothing to do with Scott and my other life. Your other life. Are you serious? You left your husband and daughter for several months to have fun with some royal playboy? Claude isn't like that. You're defending him. You are. Shouldn't you be thinking about your husband and saving your marriage? Scott's fine. What he doesn't know won't hurt him. Everything's under control. The contract ends in 2 months. Maureen threw the magazine on the coffee table. He's far from fine. He's wondering why his wife is holding hands and kissing another man and what he did to deserve being abandoned. You have a husband and a daughter. They're very real. This isn't some cheap fling. You're married. Shannon burst into tears, but her mother didn't give up. You walk around like a saint. No wonder you didn't come home and left Scott alone with your daughter. I don't know who you are. And when your husband calls to find out what's going on, you put him on hold and then brush off his concerns. At that moment, they heard the apartment door open and a man's voice shout, I'm home, honey. Claude came around the corner and saw Shannon and her mother looking at him. He quickly regained his composure, took Maureen's hand and kissed her palm. You must be Shannon's mother. I can see the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You're very beautiful. The sound of a slap echoed throughout the large apartment. Don't start this nonsense. My daughter may be an idiot, but I assure you I'm not. Claude, in shock, pressed his hand to his cheek, his eyes filling with tears. Please don't cry. How sad. How dare you seduce a married woman? Claude tried to recover. It wasn't planned. It was true love. We can't fight fate. Nonsense. It was carefully planned, and either of you could have stopped it. You're not brainless idiots. Well, she may be an idiot. You do realize that she has a daughter, my granddaughter, whom she will lose. I won't lose her, Mom. Really? If your own mother believes that Scott is the best father, then I don't see how a family court could decide otherwise. You practically abandoned her for this piece of shit. I didn't abandon anyone, and a family court won't interfere. Wake up, Shannon. Scott is talking about divorce. You neglected a man and abandoned a child. If he finds out for sure that you had an affair, you're finished. Claude tried to support Shannon. It was a brief affair. I never wanted to destroy Shannon's marriage. No, you just wanted to sleep with her, and you succeeded because, apparently, my daughter is a slut. Tell me, will you take responsibility, marry her, and take care of her daughter? Silence. No. I believed that a divorced mother wouldn't be good for your image and your family, right? Claude fidgeted nervously. Shannon, I'll leave and give you time to sort things out with your mother. You clearly need to talk. With that, Claude left. He's a coward, too, running away and leaving you. Why did you do that, Shannon? I know I'm doing the wrong thing, Mom, but he's so different, confident, handsome, and he was interested in me. And then there's the money, the prestige, the gifts, and the power. It's all so intoxicating. My old life seemed so miserable compared to this, and all my attention was focused on Claude. I still love Scott and can separate that part of my life. You need to come home immediately and talk to Scott. I can't. We have an important presentation in Cannes this week. Are you still putting your lover first? Pull yourself together, Shannon. You're going to lose your family, or is that what you want? A life with Claude. Do you love him? No. I love Scott. This isn't forever. Then you're crazy, risking your family for a fleeting infatuation. I swear if you don't tell him, I will. He deserves better. You have to take care of him and Chloe. You have to help me, Mom. How, by keeping your dirty secret? I don't believe in that. You're a cheater, Shannon. At least admit it to yourself. Try to be honest, tell Scott what happened, and ask for forgiveness. Don't kid yourself, Shannon. I doubt he'll take you back, and I won't blame him. The next day, Shannon returned home on the same flight as her mother. Maureen wished her luck as Shannon got out of the taxi. She sighed before entering the house, and the first thing she saw was Chloe. She called out to her, but Chloe panicked and threw herself into Christine's arms. Scott turned to see what was going on and saw Shannon. "Why are you here?" "What do you mean? I live here." "No, you don't. But why now? You abandoned us." Christine quickly said she would take Chloe to the park and usher her out the door. "So you're not going to say a word, or can we just admit that you slept with him too?" Shannon flinched at the harsh words, but there was no point in denying it. "I made some mistakes, Scott. I'm sorry." "How long?" "A few months since the gala. I'm going to break up with Claude, and I only have 2 months left to work." "Damn, you still put your job first and talk about it like it's nothing." "It was never part of us. It was a separate, parallel life. I never stopped loving you, Scott. We were just separated for the duration of the contract." "No. You broke us up to be with Claude. I don't even know who you are. That girl with the pots and pans, she's long gone. She has all the money in the world, but she was never that cheap. You say you won't continue, but you really want to, as long as I don't know, right?" "I missed you. Very much, actually. That's probably one of the reasons I left Claude. But I chose you, not him. It's not as bad as you think. We didn't do it every day. I was very busy at work." "No. You've already chosen a different path, and I don't want to be second best. And as for the number of times, how many times have you made love to me in the last few months compared to him? Come on, Shannon. It's easy for us to count 0, and he had 50, 100. Shannon cringed, lowering her head under the weight of Scott's words. "I'm still your wife. Only in name, and not for long if I get my way." Shannon knew her explanations sounded weak, and in a panic, she tried to change tactics. "It's not all my fault. You let yourself go while I was working to support you and provide for us." Scott was skeptical. "Not that you appreciated it, but it's hard to go to the gym when you're a single mother. You used the time I spent raising our children to devote yourself to your lover. Thanks to Christine, I'm fixing that." "Christine! You and Christine!" Scott interrupted her. "Don't judge me by your standards, Shannon. Christine is a good friend, nothing more. She gave me time to get in shape and get back to some of my old hobbies. You know, try to live my life." Shannon looked at Scott. He had indeed lost weight. At first, she had believed it was due to stress, but now she saw that he looked healthy and fit. "As for money, you forgot that I supported us and took care of all the children so you could finish school, and I gave up all my dreams to take care of Chloe, and you threw it all in my face. You listened too much to people who told you how wonderful you are." Shannon slumped into the chair. "Come on, Shannon, it's hopeless. You don't want me, at least not enough, and I deserve better." Later, Shannon read a message from Claude. "How did the confession go?" "Terrible. I believe it's over." Scott was shocked to see a limousine and an SUV parked outside his house. It just didn't fit in with the surroundings. He guessed who it was and dragged himself inside, where he found Shannon, Claude, and 2 guys who looked like bodyguards in the living room. He looked straight at Shannon. "When did you stop respecting me?" "I never did. I respect you more than you think." And yet, here we are, with your lover sitting next to you in our house. I can't think of anything less respectful, unless he starts having sex with you on the coffee table. It's over. Claude is here to help us. Claude joined the conversation. Sorry for the misunderstanding, Scott. You're overreacting. Yes, we had a little fun, but it was just a fling. Shannon told me all about you and how much she loves you. She told you that and you still betrayed her. You're no knight in shining armor. Why are you here? I don't want to believe that I'm the cause of a long-standing problem. Can I offer compensation or pay for counseling? You think you can wave your magic royal wand and fix everything? Well, you can shove that wand up your ass. And I don't need therapy. My wife is a cheater and a liar. It's very simple. You're not here for us. You're here to limit the damage because you don't want your reputation to be tarnished. A royal scandal is always good for the press. So listen to my thoughtful and comprehensive answer. Just get out of here. That's a threat, Scott. I can make your life very difficult. Really? Are you going to scare me into being happy in my marriage? I'm very curious to see how that works. And if I have problems, who's going to take care of Chloe when you want to sleep with my wife again? I'm sure you'll be thrilled when the tabloids find out how you stole my wife. Once word gets out, I suspect others will come forward as well. What do you want, Scott? A happy marriage, but you took that away from me, you selfish little man. Why do you need a married woman when you can have any woman you want? Do you? Like taking what doesn't belong to you? It's not romantic, it's just a game to you. Scott turned to look his wife in the eye before continuing. Congratulations, Claude. You won, and you can take your prize. He turned to one of the guards. Get him out of my house before I decide to risk breaking through both of you. I'm trying not to do anything that could jeopardize Chloe's care, but the situation may change. Shannon sat in amazement. She had never seen Claude give up so easily. People usually flattered him. He had a title, money, and power, but Scott made him look completely insignificant. The senior security guard smiled, but not maliciously. I think we really should leave, sir. He has every right to be in his own home. Claude nodded. Shannon, I think your contract is up. I'll pay you the rest and tell them you finished early, but I won't be needing your services in the future. With that, Claude walked out of the small house, followed by the two guards. Looks like you've been dumped, honey. Unpleasant feeling, isn't it? Funny how this job was so important to you and he got rid of you so easily. Makes you wonder if it was a real job or if you were just warming his bed. Don't be cruel, Scott. That's not like you. Cruel? Or is that how I treat you the way you've treated me for the past year? We can fix this, Scott. I'm so sorry. The job and the money were for us, for a better life. The affair was a mistake and didn't matter. It was important to me, and we hardly spent a penny of what you earned. You didn't even notice. I didn't like how you made your money. You didn't just leave me, you left our child, and that's unforgivable. A couple of days later, Scott got a call from the French press. He was about to hang up, but then he remembered Claude's visit. The conversation lasted only a couple of minutes. Scott confirmed that he was married to Shannon Williams, that they were not divorced or living separately, and that they had a child. He knew about his wife's affair with Claude, but refused to say more. A few days later, the story surfaced. It was an exposé focused on Claude, who was branded a womanizer, which in itself was not a problem, but the list of divorces associated with him was a problem. Shannon was mentioned in passing, along with many others. The divorce dragged on for months, with Shannon resisting until the end. They were sitting in the office with their lawyers when Scott finally broke the awkward silence. We need to talk about Chloe and the divorce, Shannon. If you insist on a divorce, I want the house and the savings because I earned them. Damn it, Shannon, wake up. At least you're consistent. Such a materialist. You just need to win, right? I want full custody of Chloe. No way. Chloe needs her mom. Don't make me laugh, she barely knows you. Where was her mom? Oh, right. Too busy sleeping with some jerk to take care of her own daughter. I'm not giving you custody of my daughter. You already did that 12 months ago. When was the last time you spent a whole day and night with her? You have no idea about Chloe's nightmares and her problems at school. I know your mom knows. Christine knows. She's more of a mother to her than you'll ever be. Accept the fact that Chloe needs me and that I'm the better parent. Just once, try making a decision based on what's best for her, not what you want to win again. I swear you can keep everything, all the money, but I'll fight for Chloe until the end. You hate me so much that you don't trust me with our daughter? I could be in her life, in both of your lives if you let me. If you mean we'll stay together, that's never going to happen. I don't understand. When you confessed to cheating, how did you think you'd get away with it? I believed you would forgive me. Didn't it occur to you that I wouldn't take you back? You really do think too highly of yourself. Well, I'll never take you back. You know, 6 months ago I looked in the mirror and felt worthless, broken, a fool. You're not like that. You're a wonderful, kind, caring person. I hate myself for what I did to you. I didn't know what I had. You know, I'm finally starting to believe you're right. Now I can look in the mirror and feel better about myself. You can do it. What's so great about you changing? It's more like who changed. What do you mean? Christine helped me see myself differently. Understand that your actions don't change me. I'm happy with myself. I just needed someone to help me realize that. No, how can you? You lecture me about infidelity, and you're sleeping with my best friend. I didn't say we slept together, we didn't. But I hope it will be in our future when the divorce is final. Shannon asked to see Scott without lawyers. I talked to my mom, and I believe Chloe will be better off with you. Scott looked at her, expecting a catch, but it didn't come. Really? Well, thank you. I didn't mean anything serious. It was supposed to be so one-sided that you couldn't leave. I didn't think you'd just agree. We can split everything 50-50. My salary has gone up. There'll be enough money to support Chloe. Scott nodded. Congratulations on the promotion, Shannon. I know it was important to you. Yes, all my dreams have come true, but without you and Chloe, they mean nothing. What are your plans? I'll go back home and try to repair my relationship with Chloe if you'll let me. I'll behave better than I did before. I want you to be part of her life. That's never changed. But you can't keep disappointing her like you did before. Money isn't a problem. Some of my songs are doing well. Songs, really? That's great. You always loved writing, but how did it happen? When Christine started helping out, I went back to college, took a short course in music production, and met some talented musicians. It turned out they liked my lyrics, and I wrote a lot of songs sitting at home. Wow, I didn't know that. No, you weren't around to share the joy, and that hurt too, but you didn't ask, so I didn't tell you. Anyway, some of the songs got into the hands of other people, and one of the artists picked a couple of them. I was lucky. One of the songs I wrote many years ago during our trip to Europe was covered and made it into the top 20. It sounds completely different from how I wrote it. But when I heard it on the radio, I remembered us, 14 years old, listening to the new top 10. Shannon smiled, remembering, I really liked how you played and sang. That trip was magical. That was before I lost everything. Those are good memories, Shannon, and you're still Chloe's mother. We'll always have that. Yes, and we have a mother in common. Mom loves you more than she loves me. Consider yourself fully adopted. You have no chance of getting away from her. She never forgets to remind me what an idiot I am. Scott laughed heartily. Maureen is the best. She visits us often and adores Chloe. She mentioned that she slapped Claude, and I love her for it. Shannon returned home and gradually rebuilt her relationship with Chloe with the help of Scott, Christine, and especially Maureen. She was picking up Thai takeout when she saw Scott with their old school friends. As always, he sat quietly, but when he spoke, everyone listened and laughed often. He seemed to be the center of the conversation. He noticed her and came over to say hello. "Hi, Shannon. Glad to see you're having a good time." "Yeah, we ran into each other again when I moved here. Come on in and say hi to the guys." Shannon hesitated. "I can't. I'm embarrassed about everything." "They'll accept you." "No, it's okay. Do you have plans for the weekend?" "Yeah, I have a concert tomorrow night, and next weekend I'm hoping to take Chloe on her first hike." "Sounds like the life of your dreams." "Yeah, well, I'm working on it." At that moment, Christine walked in, said hello to Shannon, and took Scott by the arm. Shannon recognized in her eyes the adoration she had felt for Scott many years ago. Shannon wished them well and hurried away, forgetting to pick up her food. She managed to hold back her tears until she was outside. Back in her apartment, she looked in the mirror and didn't like what she saw. Hotel food and takeout had caused her to gain weight. She looked tired. Her clothes were expensive, but perhaps too bright. Her skirt was a little short, and her heels were too high. Monaco seemed like a distant memory. The worst part was looking into her own eyes. Who was she? A liar? A bad mother? A divorcee? She had abandoned Scott, the man who shared her dreams, supported her through college, and gave up everything for her and their child. Her mother was right. She was incredibly foolish. In the background, the radio played another song from their youth, and she recognized the voices of Kirsty McCole and Shane McGowan, both now deceased. I could have been someone. Well, like anyone else. You took my dreams when I first met you. I kept them, baby. I tied them to mine. I can't do it alone. I built my dreams around you. Shannon wanted more than anything in the world for them to keep their dreams.